The actress from the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, Carrie Moss, opens up about the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy being canceled, and actually it's pretty admirable compared to a former co-stars. So we're going to dive right into that. So welcome back to Views of the Hughes, the Jennifer News. This is Jerome Hughes. Now let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so apparently there's more on the latest disaster from Disney Star Wars, and it's this time it's all about the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy. Now, if you've been following this story closely and everything, many of you may know about this, but there's some of you that don't know. But we all saw this coming from miles away. Now, the cancellation of the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy was inevitable, and let's be real, the vast majority of people out there knew this was bound to happen. And you know, the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy was a train wreck from the start, and it wasn't some hit like the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy wasn't some sort of hidden masterpiece as some delusional Disney Star Wars fans wanted to believe. But no one really was watching the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, and it was pretty clear that it wasn't going to survive at all. But of course, you always have those folks out there who refuse to accept reality, and they thought, you know, we should all be outraged that the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy it got canned. Okay, now what's also interesting is how, you know, many decent Star Wars fans, specifically fans of the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, reacted to this when the news broke, and they had a very visceral, almost emotional reaction to the cancellation. Now, you think that, you know, they were mourning the loss of a cultural masterpiece, but the reality is the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy wasn't something to be proud of. Now, the vast majority of people saw this as a necessary move. No one was watching it. The ratings were abysmal, and it was clear that, you know, Kathleen Kennedy had missed the mark once again. But of course, there were always a few fans out there who were absolutely delusional about the success and quality of the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, and they thought that everybody should be up in arms about the cancellation. Now, these people thought that the actors should be furious, the fan base should be outraging, that this was, you know, somehow a massive loss for Star Wars as a whole. Now, reality has a funny way of catching up with people, and that's exactly what's actually happening here. Now, the show itself wasn't good, plain and simple. The fan base wasn't there. The general audience wasn't interested in the Acolyte by Kathleen Kennedy. And the actors, well, some of them seemed upset, but not everyone was on the same page. Now, a handful of the actors and actresses involved in the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy did seem upset about the show being canceled. And you know what? They're basically clinging to the idea that this was something special, that something that deserved more time, but most people knew better. But however, there was one notable person who hadn't said anything about, you know, the cancellation yet, and that was Carrie Moss. Now, before we begin, go ahead and smash the like button, share this video forward across social media, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and click bell notifications. And now let's go ahead and get right back into it. Now, you all know Carrie Moss. Kathleen Kennedy used her as the face of the show to try and draw people in. Now, when you looked at the marketing for the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, Carrie Moss seemed like she was going to be playing a major role. Now, she was front and center in all the promotional material, making it look like she was going to be, you know, the central key figure in this story. But here's where it gets interesting. If you actually watch the show, you know that Carrie Moss dies within the first 5 minutes. And she also made an appearance on another episode. That's right. Kathleen Kennedy and her team pulled a classy bait and switch. And you thought you were getting a big role from Carrie Moss, but instead she's killed off right at the beginning. And we all know how much Kathleen Kennedy loves to subvert expectations. And this was just another example of that. All right, plain and simple. Now, Carrie Moss did appear in a few flashback scenes throughout the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, but overall her role wasn't really as significant as the marketing made it seem. And that's where the frustration from fans starts to build. Now, people felt misled, and rightfully so, but here's the kicker. Now that the Acolyte from Kathleen Kennedy is officially canceled, Carrie Moss is out promoting another project, and she's finally being asked about the show. But what's hilarious, though, is that she doesn't really seem to care at all. Okay. But while we're promoting her new project and everything, Carrie Moss was actually asked about the Acolyte and its cancellation. And you think that she might have some strong opinions about the show that came from Kathleen Kennedy, given how prominently she was featured in the marketing. But when asked about how she felt about the show getting canceled, she made it clear that it wasn't a big deal to her. She wasn't devastated and she wasn't upset, and she certainly wasn't out there demanding a second season. But in fact, she says she didn't even know it had been canceled until a dad at her kid's school told her. That's right. Kathleen Kennedy, Carrie Ann Moss, the actress that Kathleen Kennedy used to promote the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, didn't even know the show was canceled until she found out from another parent. Now, she wasn't keeping up with it and she wasn't losing sleep over it. But here's what she said during the interview when asked about the show's cancellation. She said, quote, I've been asked this question a lot today. And it's funny because, you know, when you're an actor, you're in shows all the time that get canceled. In the beginning, it's kind of a bummer, but you just learn not to get too invested. You can't be. It's a protection mechanism. So I didn't even, I mean, I died at first. I was like, you know, I love everyone, but I didn't even read about it. I heard it from a dad at school that I got canceled, but I was already working on something else. So it was sort of like, oh, okay. It was over already for me. Now, this is pretty funny, people. Carrie Ann Moss was already mentally checked out of the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy long before it got canceled. Now, she wasn't heartbroken at it, all over it. And you know what? She certainly was not there fighting to save the show itself. Contrast with that, with some of the other actors like Lee Jong-jae, who played on Master Soul. He came out with a statement saying he didn't think that the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy should have been canceled. He was clearly more attached to the project and seemed to see a second season. And Carrie Ann Moss, she was already dead in the show and had moved on. Now, this also really highlights, you know, the difference between seasoned professionals like Carrie Ann Moss and others like Amanda Stenberg, for example, who might be newer to the industry or more emotionally invested in these projects. Now, Carrie Ann Moss has been around the block and she's seen shows come and go, and she knows better than to get too wrapped up in something like the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy. To her, this was just another job, another paycheck. And when it was over, I mean, it was over. She didn't even care enough to follow the news about it. She had to hear from her dad at the school that the show was canceled. Now, this raises some interesting points about how Kathleen Kennedy and her team handled the marketing for the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy. They clearly used Carrie Ann Moss to try to generate buzz and excitement for the show, but you know what? When you pull a bait and switch of a major character's, you know, of actor's character in the first 5 minutes, it's no surprise that you actually feel misled, and it's no wonder the show didn't connect with audiences the way Kathleen Kennedy hoped. But for those fans out there who thought that Carrie Ann Moss was going to be the one to rally the troops and fight for a second season of the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's simply not happening. You see, Carrie Ann Moss has moved on. She's not upset at all, and she's not devastated either. And she's not interested in getting involved in any campaigns to bring the show back. She's moved on to bigger and better things. And honestly, I mean, let's be real. Can you blame her? Now, the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy was never going to be a success in the first place. It was doomed from the start. And this just proves once again that Kathleen Kennedy's vision for Star Wars is not what the fans want. Now, let's be real. Time and time again, we've seen Kathleen Kennedy push projects that simply don't resonate with the core fan base, the real Star Wars fans, George Lucas Star Wars fans, whether it's the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy or the sequel trilogy. The results have been the same: disappointment, delusionment, and ultimately failure. Okay, but I mean, it's no surprise. Decent Star Wars is in a rough spot right now, and the cancellation of the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy is just another symptom of the larger issues at play. Fans are tired of being misled, tired of being told what Star Wars should be by people who don't even seem to understand what made it great in the first place. And when the actors like Carrie Ann Moss aren't invested in projects they're promoting, something's terribly gone wrong. All right, so what do you think about this? Was the Acolyte under Kathleen Kennedy doomed from the start, or could have been saved? Was Carrie Ann Moss right about, basically just to move on and not care about the show getting canceled? Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you may have this particular topic. If you enjoy what I shared in this video, go ahead and smash the like button, share this video for all across social media. Be sure to watch other videos I have on this channel already as well. And if you enjoy what I shared in this channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, click the notification so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.